Okay,
Hi,
you're
Desiree.
recording.
So, Desiree, let's start our talk. Uh, for starts, I will present you to my students. I'm very glad to have you here with us, and hope that we have a nice meeting together. So, Desiree Driesenaar,
Oh, yes.
after a long career in regular business management, Desiree decided to follow her heart and became a freelancer for nature-based solutions. Aligning the economy, ecology, and the human spirit is definitely possible. She works with farmers, builders, filmmakers, entrepreneurs, artists, and ecologists on widespread solutions for world problems. Healthy living soil, healthy buildings, and restored water cycles make her happy. Me too. Especially when
Yes.
the local community members can earn a living creating this and more. One of her tasks is being an external blue economy expert for the European Commission, and her projects are in the private sector, public sector, and education. She writes open source on Medium and is enthusiastic if other people take her work and add their own wisdom to it, or translate it into all kinds of other languages. And she lives in Netherlands but works worldwide. So Desiree, hello, my dear. Very nice to
Thank
meet you.
you. Thank you for inviting me, Renata. I'm very excited to talk to you and to your students.
This is one of the most wonderful things from the pandemic, to have the access to many people around the world that is very open to talk with each other and
Mhm.
to spread and to share knowledge. I think
Yeah,
this is one of
I
the best things that is happening.
yes, and I really hope it remains that way. For me, we
Yes,
don't have to go back to normal and back into our own boxes like that. It's
yes,
really good to share and to build upon each other's work and to know what's happening out there, because otherwise we'll never get through it and never find the solutions that we all need.
yes. I don't believe in the old normal. I want a new
Mhm.
normal with collective thinking, collective mindset, and I want this as a new normal, a collective way of being.
Yeah.
So let's put a seed together, Desiree.
Yes, let's do. And let's see what emerges.
Yes, yes. So Desiree, for start our conversation, I just want to give my students some basics concepts as systemic design, which combines systems thinking, mindset, and tools with human-centered design. And if you can, I want to ask you some examples of systemic design, preferably in the urban environment. Can you share them with us?
Of course I can. Of course I can. Sometimes my eyes will go sideways to make sure I don't forget a really great example that you need to do. But um, so I do have like a note here to keep me
Me too.
really on top and share all the examples with you. But systemic design is really about looking at the whole picture.
Mhm.
We've for too long looked at just reductionist pictures. We just look at part of the problem and then we think, oh, but we have a solution. And then all the disadvantages of that solution, well, we just throw them over the wall to other streams who will solve it. Well, we are all one big picture. And if we don't find the solutions that will fix more of these problems and really look at interconnected problems, we will never fix it. we will all be stuck in just these one solutions. And I think that nature-based solutions will really change the world, because we are part of nature.
Yes.
So up until now, we just looked at industrial solutions, and we just looked at very large scale things and very uniform things. And I think the new solutions will be in incorporating nature in our solutions, being inspired by nature in our solutions, and then design it in a human way that is also giving back to nature, because we take resources from nature. We also need to replenish them
Yes.
on the planet to stay within planetary boundaries. We have to find, solutions for that as well. Basic needs of humans and basic needs of the whole planet. So that's my view. And I, of course, have a lot of examples. There are many examples out there, also in cities, because it's not always, we think of nature just as being out there in the countryside. Well, city is as much nature. It has air, that's nature. It has
Yes.
water, that's nature. It has lots of things that interact with us, and it's all nature. So the first maybe obvious example is greening a city.
Mm-hmm.
We have problems like air pollution, like climate change. There's too much CO2 in the air. We have problems with burnouts and stress. And there's lots of scientific evidence that stress is also caused by having lack of connection to nature. So if we will green a city and really look at greening walls, greening roofs, also using all the wasteland that is in a city to maybe produce food,
Yes.
then we can really make a completely different city.
Mm-hmm.
We can also look at, for example, using different materials that will soak up water and release it again when it's needed, or different materials than what we're used to in concrete and asphalt. We're just smothering the planet, but there are different solutions possible. So that's greening the city. In my own city, Venlo, in the Netherlands, we have a municipality office and a school that are really healthy buildings. And they use plant walls in the inside of the building because it's nice, but also because it cleans the air. And also on the outside of the building. And it regulates water, it regulates airflows.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also something like natural ventilation implemented, and it's a design in a building that is inspired by termites, by ant hills. And termites really have termites can be, for example, in the desert, and by day it can be 50 degrees Celsius, and by night it's like -2 or 3.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And still inside the anthill, it's always 31 degrees because they feed on a fungus, and the fungus only survives at this 31 degrees. So how do they do it? Well, people have looked at that and they've become inspired by it, and now they build their buildings with it, and they take the air from underneath the soil where it's
Yes.
cooled.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it comes into the building, it's warmed automatically because there's a solar chimney. And then you know that it's just a law of physics that warm air rises.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the warm air will give natural ventilation without a system, without a ventilation machine, and it will go out again through chimneys. And that's really a very great design method to do a thing like that. One other example for cities is Daiku, the Diaper Cycle. Ayumi Matsuzaka is really changing the thinking about diapers. And if we have diapers made by natural materials, local, abundantly available materials like, I don't know, bamboo, industrial hemp, it depends on the location, what material you will use.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can use the diaper. You can make very fertile soil with it, terra preta. Well, that's
Yes.
at least Spanish. It's not Portuguese, but it's Spanish, terra preta. And it's found in the Amazon. There's lots of
Yes.
carbon in this soil, and it's very fertile. Well, we
Yes.
can make it with these biodegradable diapers, and then we can grow fruit trees on it. And with the fruit, the children can be fed again. Well, that's a circular way of thinking about a business model. That's completely different from our normal ways, but it is giving back to nature and having a business model in place. A third example is straw by straw. I really like this example. It's a young entrepreneur, Avi, and Avi is changing the world of straws and making people aware of single-use plastics in cities. So she gives an extra income stream to organic farmers, and she takes their straws, their rest materials, and make straws out of it so you can drink them. And that way she also creates a lot of awareness. So that's also a very good business model that works.
Yes, and you've already mentioned some regenerative examples that creates a flow of abundance and resources, also financial resources for many people, for many not so people, but for many areas, as for instance the DICO, for instance, and
Yeah.
when you see a problem, that will be the discharge of the diaper, and then you it's not more a problem but an opportunity.
Yes.
So you use it as an opportunity to reinvent the business and to generate abundance in other way. So it's
Yeah.
very beautiful, this. And you integrate more, not integrate because we are already inter, but you show, it becomes more evident that we are part of the nature. So when you integrate the baby and the diaper and the terra preta and all the things together, it's very evident that we are integrated, just a big thing. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And I also see a lot that there's lots of community building in this kind of business models. So, for example, in Daikel, it is groups of about 100 parents, and they produce the diapers together and they connect. And you can imagine that they start with diapers and with healthy soil. But the next thing they might invent maybe is healthy toys and different
Yes.
materials for, I don't know, it's maybe different education or different. So all these parents connect with each other and then
Yes.
they also reinvent other things. So I think
Yes.
the community is also very important in these business models. And
Yes.
what you see with young people and startups, young people, of course, have a good community sense. They are used to reaching out also online, and they connect easily with other people. And I think they really understand that community is really an important part of getting ahead in such a business model. And
Yes.
then also sharing with others, working together with others. Collaboration is really
Yes.
big part of these
Collaboration.
business models.
Mhm.
Yes. And then these business models work often with clusters. And
Yes.
in our regular business, we see that two drivers for regular business models, the normal linear business models, are scale, to really make things big and then cheap. And also the other one is competition.
Profit.
You see a
Yes.
lot of competition there.
Yes.
And what you also see in the linear business models is
Profit.
yeah.
Yes.
So what we do in the new business models is getting synergy to work instead of scale.
Mm-hmm.
So you build clusters not of the same kind of companies so they can make big scale. You make sure you collaborate with different companies and they choose their partners on being the same blood group. So the same kind of thinking, the same
Yes.
really understanding each other's culture much more than doing the same thing. So they don't
Yes.
copy others for doing the same thing. They embrace diversity instead of doing the same thing and getting into this. I don't know if your students are really aware of the blue oceans and the red ocean, blue ocean theories, and
I'd like
normally,
to talk about a little bit about it too.
yes, well,
Yes.
that's really great because then you can find the blue oceans if you go for diversity.
Yes. 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 Is when you think out of the box, you can find a lot of ideas, opportunities, and with different minds, you can discover incredible things and invent incredible things together. And we have to stimulate not just young people, but all of us to have hope that we can reinvent our world. We have to be.
Yes,
We
true.
need hope because many people doesn't have it, and I'm very sad when I see it. Since we have a lot to do,
Yes,
we still have a lot to do.
it is.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I must say, of course, I see a lot of these models emerge and a lot of people busy with reinventing it. And I do have hope. I
yes,
don't know how long it will take us, but I do have hope that really this way of thinking will bring us very good things.
yes,
And I can also say that for me personally, for example, is working in this way of thinking brings me so many great people
yes,
and so much fun also in doing it that it's a great field to work in.
yes,
And also
yes,
what you said very much resonates with me on young people, diverse young people of different cultures. We also need intergenerational contact. I'm not the
yes,
youngest one myself, but I work a lot with young people. And they're very wise. They have these great innovative ideas. And then when we go together to really look at how it could be done, or and we feed off each other, and then the really nice things emerge. So
yes.
that's really good. Listening to each other and then being innovative together.
Yes, yes. And I think now I don't want to repeat myself, but it's inevitable. With the pandemic, I believe we have a great opportunity because we had to slow down and to go inside us. We had to do that. So it's an opportunity to rethink and reborn. I think
Yes.
not go back to the normal we still have, but
Yeah.
reinvent and create a new normal, really new normal
Yeah.
in a collective way. So
Yeah.
I hope that we um, use this opportunity to change now the way we were doing things, the way we were
Yeah.
living, step by step, but we can change it.
Yeah. Oh yes, we can.
Yes,
I'm convinced we can, and I see a lot of people also, yeah, also realizing that, as you say, we slow down, and that's the
yes,
moment to realize, well, what am I doing? Do
yes,
I need
yes,
all this cheap stuff, or can I simplify my life?
yes,
And what does it then mean for our economy? How can we rebuild an economy that is more resilient? Because you also see that at this moment, the companies are toppling over. It's not like they're so resilient.
yes,
They're just big, but they're not resilient.
yes,
And we
yes,
can create also a lot of jobs, a lot of jobs in this
yes,
new way of thinking. Don't
yes,
think it is the ground of just idealists and people who just are hugging trees and thinking
yes,
about nature in this way. No, it's not. We can create many jobs and
yes,
also do it much better, much more in line with our souls and our hearts to do it in this way. So that's why I really hope that
yes,
many people will realize that, and then maybe if all of us just talk to one other and get them enthusiastic, then it will just be a movement.
yes. When you just stay worried with how many jobs will the technology destroy, I think it's because you stay in the old kind of thinking, just in the way of big
Yeah,
companies and everything in quantity, not quality, and so on.
yeah,
But when you think in a different way,
yeah,
you don't stuck in the worried with technology, because you see how many possibilities you have to create new kinds of jobs. And for instance, as we were talking in
yeah,
our road material, we were talking about the polycentric or multi-centered cities, uh, and you create
yes,
neighborhoods that are self-sufficient in terms of new jobs, small business, small production, and so you can reinvent, for instance, a big city as São Paulo, that nowadays we have just one big centered area that has all the kinds of facilities and services and so on. And people sometimes need to travel 20 kilometers from home to the work, or from home to study, or from home to the hospital. And this does not, this can change. This must change. And the neighborhood must have
yeah,
all the opportunities, or at least most things, that basic things that its population needs. So if a person needs
yes.
to, yes,
Well, that's really true. And I think that if we combine technology with old
yes,
wisdom, we will find ways because it's not against technology. We
yes,
just have to
mhm,
think, is technology supporting life or is technology destroying life? And we should not want to invest in technology destroying life. We should invest in technology that's supporting life.
mhm,
And for example, I see a very good example in the World Health Innovation Summit, where a health system is set up by using technology, because sometimes people don't really need to see a doctor at a certain moment. They just want to have a talk about their health, and they can do that with a nurse as well. So you
yes,
can really have like this, all these kind of things, and then have steps, and you can think about if people can talk more about their health, they will feel better empowered to to do stuff in a healthy way. And then if they have small problems, they can go to a nurse and they can really level it out. And then when you have bigger problems, they can still travel and go to a really specialized hospital, for example.
Yes,
But then
yes,
you can really make it very accessible for people in local communities as well.
yes. Hmm.
And also, if we look at this in an economic way, sometimes people say, yeah, Desiree, you only talk small scale. Well, that's not true. I'm talking like how an ecosystem works. So we make products and we make a very diverse basic needs. Um, yeah, we need to fulfill basic needs in a local community. And if the entrepreneurs in this local community give us a very diverse palette of things, how we can do that, you will
Hmm.
get a lot of money flows into this local community.
Yes.
And that also, the money flows make an economy.
Hmm.
And now, how we do it now, we have a lot of multinationals. And the multinationals, they suck money out of a local community and it goes into the pockets of anonymous shareholders.
Yes.
Huh? And that's what's ruining our local businesses. So if you look at how to do it on a smaller scale, and then you want to go bigger, you can scale up, but you don't copy paste, just
Yes,
copy
yes.
more.
Hmm.
If you copy morph and you really adapt one solution to another local situation, you will get a really great idea there as well. And then you can scale no problem. And you will have different communities with different solutions that fit into a local culture. And also, how much fun really is it to all drink the same uniform beer all
Yes.
over the world, or eat the same uniform hamburger all over the world? I must say, when I come to Sao Paulo, I don't want a hamburger that I can have in my own place. Come on.
Yes.
I want to really, really taste Brazil. Of
Yes.
course, you have so many wonderful different things from the Netherlands. I want to see it. I want to taste it. I want to feel it.
Yes.
And that's what we should bring back.
Yes. I completely understand that now people is a little bit despaired about losing money with the crisis, and so people are looking where can I invest my money so I don't lose too much, and so as you can see, people are running to the stock exchange, to the
Mhm,
exchange. So I think it's still the same because people are
yeah.
not thinking, wait a moment, may I invest in something different? For instance, in a local business, in a, maybe in a different kind of business near my home, or I don't know. But people still thinking in terms of, oh, let's invest in some big company. In let's see where, for instance, the laboratories from drugs, the drug laboratories now are
Hmm.
promising a lot of money because they are working in vaccines and in drugs
Yeah.
to combat the COVID and so on. So they have or they promise a lot of a big future in terms of investment, but we still believing in that model, and we have a lot
Yeah.
to change in terms of
Yeah.
investment.
I know. And
I
yeah, I
understand
know.
because
And
I feel
I know the world is, I know the world is in transition,
yes,
but in order to, it will take time time to really
Yes.
close the gap between
Yes.
the front runners that are
Yes.
now seeing the bigger picture and trying to work towards it and really implement it in their lives, and the mass who will only adopt it when some of the big companies,
Yes.
they are not resilient anymore, so some of
Yes.
them will topple over. And
Yes.
then maybe the realization starts that big is not resilient and big is
Yes.
not per definition good.
Yes.
And I think that if we really, um, well, that's my idea. I think we have a life to live. And if we put that first and say, how do I want to live my life? As in, then you make different choices. And then
Yes.
you spend your money where your heart is. And if we
Yes.
all do that as consumers and become co-creators, because that's also a very important step, people should not just hang back and say, okay, let's see what will happen, and then, it'll all happen to me. And they become victims co-create a new world, and we're in the driver's seat as humans.
Yes.
Then we can really create it together, and we become responsible for what we create. And if we take the responsibility for our own lives and also for, yeah, life in a bigger picture, then
Yes.
then the world will change. But it might
Yes.
take time. I don't know. I don't have
Yes.
this glass bowl where I can see it all, especially not now because it's chaos. And we all
Yes.
see from nature that we need chaos first before the new order will arrive. It's
Mm-hmm.
what happens in nature. You always see it will be chaos, and then things will shift. Well, that's what's happening now. It is shifting. And it
Yes.
is up to all of us individually to choose, do I want to be part of the problem or do I want to be part of the solution?
Yes. Yes. And many things that you mentioned now is part of are part of the blue economy. And can you can
Yes.
you tell us something about your work as part of the blue economy network?
Yes. Well, the blue economy is sometimes seen as just an ocean economy,
Yes.
but it's
Yes.
much more than
Mhm.
that. It is ocean and land and everything connected. It has a systemic worldview where we see the connections between all different parts. And we work with business models to make it also real, to make it realistic. Also, we work a lot with technology, um, and we work with completely new materials like local, abundantly available materials or local waste streams. It's
Mhm.
also very important that we use all our waste streams, because in our regular economy we just make a product and then there's lots of waste created, and then we say to the community, well, you solve the waste, we just make the product and make it cheap as possible,
Mhm.
and then all the problems that come from that product, well, that's for society to solve. And in blue economy, we try to make the entrepreneurs aware of their responsibility,
Mhm.
but we also want to make them see the opportunities. We never think in problems, we always think in opportunities. Because every problem can become a solution. Every problem, if you look at CO2, it's a problem. But it's also a solution, because if you want to capture a lot of CO2, you can do it in seaweed, where you regenerate the ocean and
Yes.
build a whole new industry around seaweed products. And that's not
Mhm.
only for food, it's for feed for animals, it can be clothes, it can be so many things. It can
Mhm.
be natural drugs. It can be all kinds, cosmetics. There's all
Mm-hmm.
kinds of things in this new kind of industry. So then you see CO2 not as a problem, but you see it as a resource,
Mm-hmm.
because you
Mm-hmm.
have enough of it to make a business with it. So it's an opportunity.
Yes.
So that's how blue economy works. And blue economy is a concept thought of by Günter Pauli. And Günter is Flemish by origin. He comes from Belgium,
Mm-hmm.
but he's a real global citizen. He works a lot. He speaks Spanish fluently. If you ever want to get something, for your, there's, for example, also a very big community in South America of blue economy specialists. It's really big in South America.
Mm-hmm.
And Günther, I think at this moment he lives in Japan. And when I started on my route, on my journey to see what I do best in business, and I wanted to combine it with what I really think that the world should, should go towards.
Mm-hmm.
So then I did Blue Economy Summer School in Hungary in the University of Page in 2013. I did that. And I met a lot of great people. And over the years, I met a lot more on, the several excursions we did, and we connected. And there is a whole network. It's very inclusive, and everybody can connect to everybody else and learn from everybody else, because everything is open source. Some entrepreneurs still, because they have to live in our current system, they still patent some of the things, but
Yes.
most of the thinking is open source, and we really want to share. There's lots of scientists involved who, who really do a different kind of thinking. So, it's been a journey. Since 2013, I've just studied again and again and learned so much more. And now there's lots of interaction going on between different people, some of them having companies, some of them doing education, others, there's even a real economy that's already doing it. There's one project that's maybe more than 30 years old. It's in South America. It's in Colombia. Um, it is called Las Gaviotas.
Mm-hmm.
And Las Gaviotas in Colombia is really combining um, a lot of blue economy principles. You might look them up. There's some YouTube videos and a lot on internet to be found
Mm-hmm.
about it. In Europe, we also have an island that I visited myself, El Hierro. It's part of Spain, so
Yes.
it's also a Spanish-speaking community.
Mm-hmm.
And also there, they really started by making the island self-sufficient with all kind of natural ways, and all these natural solutions build on each other. So
Mm-hmm.
the more solutions you have, the more value you add,
You
because you
add, yes.
add value upon value upon value, and then it becomes really valuable. So you can
Yes.
imagine it's a real economy going. Yeah,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
really great to see these examples,
And you
these real
benefit a
life
lot
things
of
happening.
people that
Yes,
maybe were out from the mainstream.
yes, true.
Yes, so you put these people, you include now these people in the mainstream of the economy when you
Yes,
create these
true.
other values that were
True.
already
Yeah,
there, but they were hidden by the
yeah,
normal way of
true.
thinking.
Yeah. And I think in Sao Paulo, you can think of it, maybe an island is very clear because you have very clear natural boundaries. You
Yes.
have the
Mhm.
sea because it's very clear. So becoming self-sufficient is okay, everything stays on the island. Well, in Sao Paulo, you can do that with areas
Yes.
and look at them
Yes.
like ecosystems.
Hmm.
They do interact with each other, but they can all have their own identity.
Yes.
it's like one ecosystem can really think, oh, my strength is um, yeah, maybe farming, or maybe regenerative farming, or another say, no, my strength is really design and
Yes.
doing something with those resources and making them work. So you can have all these different identities of areas, and they really interact with each other, but they also have like a local identity that people can be proud of and be part
Yes.
of and spend their money in, and then be as self-sufficient as possible.
Yes, we can think, I think in São Paulo, we can think our neighborhoods in terms of islands. And each neighborhood
Yes.
has its own identity, its own culture. Many people, for instance, I live in the same neighborhood. I am 57 years old, and I live here
Hmm.
since I was 6. I had 6 years old. So I love my
Yes.
neighborhood. I know people from name in the
Yeah.
streets. So
Yeah.
I believe
Yeah.
we have an identity with our neighborhood. So if we invest in our,
True.
how can I say, not just identity, but kind of vocation. It's not the word. I don't know the word
Yes.
in English, but
Yeah. Vocation
yes,
is a, yeah.
the strong point, the competencies and
Strength. Yeah.
yes, strengths. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's great because you can
Yeah.
share it them with other neighborhoods, and you can
Yeah.
complete with others uh, what you don't have.
Yeah.
So it's perfect. It's
Yeah,
perfect.
true. You can really build a very strong competitive advantage,
Yes. Hmm.
but you also have enough diversity. And we all know, well, you do economics. We all know that diversity makes an economy.
Yes.
If you have lots of interaction going on, then the streams of money, of value, of energy, they all go, um, they build upon each other and they make the value in the community.
Yes.
And then we all have our own competitive advantage. And I think what a lot of businesses do wrong in our current economy is they say, my neighbor does this well and he's very successful. Oh, let's do the same. And then you kill both businesses.
Yes. Hmm.
If you say, my neighbor does fantastic, but I have another strength, so I do my thing in a fantastic way, then you
Yes.
can work together with that neighbor and
Hmm.
really build upon each other and
Yes.
not compete, but
Yes.
really make each other stronger.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's also supporting each other. And it needs a mindset change
Yes. You add
because it
skills.
needs,
Yes.
yes,
You add
yes.
skills.
And we
You
need a
add product
mindset.
services. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you need a mindset change. We think in our current economy in scarcity, and that makes things valuable. Well, in this new mindset change, we have to think in abundance and
Yes.
make abundance happen, co-create abundance instead of keeping each other on the scarcity, competitive, need to be cheap, need to squeeze things out. No, you
Yes.
don't need to squeeze things out. We people are squeezed out now. Our planet's resources are squeezed to
Yes.
death. So
Yes.
we need to unleash the abundance of nature, because nature as a as it is naturally is abundant.
Yes. Hmm.
So if we try not to um, make nature fight nature, but use abundance. Well, food forests is a very good example. In our current farming, we always try to get rid of the weeds,
Hmm.
and we try to really how we spray with chemicals, because we say we only want this one crop. We want just this grain and nothing else, and this is our monoculture. We don't want anything else. Well, if you look at how food forests do it, they also design. They're not like nature and go ahead. They just look at nature very closely, and then they design a system it has 7 layers. You have
Mm-hmm.
big trees, you have ground cover, you have roots, you have climbers, and they can all coexist together. And on a very small space, you can really create a lot of food and very functional natural products. Wood,
Mm-hmm.
um, um, I don't know, in Las Gaviotas, they have this, they work together with the trees. They don't chop them for wood. They just work together and
Yes.
they make ethylene, I think, out of it or things like that. And they combine like these pine trees with palm trees. There are
Mm-hmm.
even, I don't know, tea plantations that work together with pepper vines, and they also grow they grow fish and algae and all these really very useful products on one plantation. And then you will have biodiversity, and you will have a lot of product because nature wants this. Nature says,
Yes.
okay, give me some species I can collaborate with, and then I'll give you more. And we will only
Yes.
have more cherries if we collaborate with others. So, and of course, you have to design it cleverly, but there's lots of science done on that now. You have a lot of permaculture design, you have a lot of food forest knowledge, there's lots of these things. And yeah, and then we can really make it work. And I've seen it on Aliado. They have made the farming organic with terra preta in about 8 years' time. And now they have banana harvests that are really much bigger than the regular ones. So of course, during the transition, you need you need to have it financed. It will have a
Mhm.
dip because the transition, your soil will not be good enough yet, and it will not
Yes.
work well together yet. And so I think there also is a role for impact investors. They
Mm-hmm.
should look at this impact and not only say, I just want to get in when it's all set. That's
Mm-hmm.
not when entrepreneurs need you. Impact investors should take their responsibility and say, okay, I invest in the impact in the beginning because
Mm-hmm.
that's when it's needed. And then I will have better results in the longer term because we need to
Yes.
think
Mm-hmm.
a bit longer term than just short-term cash.
Yes.
Also,
Mm-hmm.
there's a role for public investors like municipalities and governments and everything. They also should invest in this transition. And for example, in Europe, we have we have big schemes for farmers. Well, we should invest in the farmers who transition and not just in the ones that are doing things in the regular way. So that's really how things should be transformed. There
Yes.
is enough money in the world. There is
Yes.
enough. We
Yes.
just use it at these places to make the transition work
Yes.
because the entrepreneurs need it. The entrepreneurs need the help to get the new models going.
Yes.
What you see in the new models, that in the beginning they need a bit more finance because you need to get all these parts going before they really get the multiplier effect. Because in the end, when you have the whole model going, you will have an even better result than with a regular business model because you build value upon value upon value. But you
Yes.
first need to do it. It's like with the diaper example, you have to really reinvent a very good biodegradable diaper. You have to get the production process going. You have to really get the soil going. then you have to plant the trees, you have to regenerate land with it. So it takes years to get all these things interacting in the right way.
Yes.
And then the impact investor will really see its proceeds.
But can you imagine how much change can you do in the urban environment? For instance, since we have a lot of contaminated areas here, if we use this concept of urban forests, we can, with time, regenerate a lot of areas and do a lot of urban agriculture.
Yes, true.
Yes. But we need time.
True. The thing is, you don't need so much, especially if you have smaller projects. I'm talking about the bigger projects that need a lot of time. But for example, in India, there is this guy, and he gave TED Talks about tiny forests, tiny food forests. And he really has an area of 10 by 10. So it's really 10 by 10 meters. It's 100 square meters. And he makes this food forest work. He makes a tiny forest out of it. So it's not like a lot of space is needed. And the same, I see communities doing like rooftop gardening together.
Yes.
Or I see communities, there's really lots of I see, for example, local beer brewers who really invent a new kind of local beer with a local taste, and they reuse, because when you brew beer, there's always a lot of wastewater, rest water. It's not contaminated, it's just being used to brew. And there's lots of rest grain, which is also, after that, it's just not consumed, it's just used. And then they work together, for example, with bakeries to get to make bread out of these rest grains. And things like that are kind of easy because the models have already been invented.
Yes.
And you can really look towards also other places where this is happening.
Yes.
There's lots of results, for example, with small mushroom growing on coffee waste. There's really great results because the coffee waste is normally waste, but you can really grow. There's lots of cellulose in it, and you can really grow wonderful oyster mushrooms on them. And then the oyster mushrooms will be good food instead of, for example, cattle. So there's lots of these even small examples where people can build a business, a small business in a local area. And if you have a community with all kind of different businesses, they will feed on each other and help each other, support each other, and get a local economy going.
Yes. In São Paulo, for instance, we had a lot of industries left the city over time because they had some taxes incentives in other cities. So there are huge areas abandoned in São Paulo that could be used as farmers.
Yeah.
And to restore the soil and to produce food to local people, by local people and to local people. It could be incredible, an incredible experience.
Yeah, that's wonderful. We have in Amsterdam, where the municipality asked people to get a systemic clean tech operation there. So they use a lot of plants. They also do a lot of research there to see which plants do it best. And then they regenerate the soil with it, with the plants, with mushroom mycelia, with all kinds of things. And then they, at that at that point it was a kind of a waste area, so they put a lot of boats on there because they knew they only had the area for 10 years from the municipality. So they asked people for old boats, and then they made offices in there and very
Ah, beautiful.
cool restaurants and things like that. And there's, I must say, in Holland, we also have a lot of industry buildings in the middle of cities going waste. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of them are reused as startup maker spaces
Mm-hmm.
where lots of cool businesses can start. We have, for example, in Rotterdam, we have Blue City, and they used an old building of a tropical swimming pool,
Oh,
and they
incredible.
have the biggest circular hub there with lots of small business, circular economy businesses doing fruit, leather, and doing beer brewery. They have mushroom growing. They have all kinds of cool stuff, and then they also do awareness. So they also have, like, they invite speakers, and they yeah, they have these discussion evenings with local people. So they also, yeah, create a vibe that people
Yes.
want to be part of it as
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurs
Yes.
or as citizens. And they just, yeah. So that's really a good idea for yeah, all these stranded assets, because that's also what they are. It's a
Yes.
stranded asset when it's just waste, and it
Yes.
can be
Yes.
used for other things.
Yes. And I was thinking about, since we've talked a little bit about technology, combining technology with this kind of knowledge that is uh,
Yeah,
human
yeah,
knowledge. How can we combine these things? For instance, as I know that you have been working with Professor Ari Vulberg, that uses
yeah,
technology with uh, the knowledge, the human knowledge. So, in
yeah,
order to establish a balance, good balance in the development in the communities, and can
yeah.
you explain us how it uh, is being?
How it works.
Yes,
Yeah.
how it works.
Well, you can imagine that thinking systemically is also making it very complex. The world
Mhm.
is complex, and we
Yes.
need to deal with that complexity. I myself use a lot of intuition in that and really radical choice, because sometimes we just need to make a radical choice that we don't want something anymore, and that we're going to find a new thing that is better and really support that, and then also phase out the old thing that we don't want anymore. So we need to make radical choices.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also other ways to deal with this complexity, and Ari does it really great. I love his methods because he uses artificial intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
he uses virtual reality, and what he does is he has defined several themes in this complexity. And when he has a problem, he will have tables of people with knowledge of such a theme. And it's very diverse people on there. And one person, for example, looks at it from a doctor's point of view, and another looks at it from an ecology point of view, and another looks at it from a building point of view, and then they come up with all kind of insights. And he puts all this data together. And I know that a lot is done with artificial intelligence, but of course it's very important to also look at what are the real nodes, the ones where everything
Yes.
interacts, where the real insight is. Because if you have such a bunch of data, it's not like it's all wisdom. It's maybe all knowledge, but it's not all wisdom.
Yes.
So he is very clever in really defining what the nodes are. And then also he builds like, okay, this is your city now, and this is the problems it has. And then he builds a VR model with the really the things that will, the knobs where you can turn. For example, it's for example, he had one big project that just comes to mind. It was a kind of a social question, and they asked themselves why people from the poor areas were always less intelligent. Of course, it's a very, very, yeah, broad subject, and how do you get it? And of course, it has to do also with people being poor, not having good food, maybe, or. And then in the end, when he came to the real conclusion, the big conclusion was that the brains of little children will develop in the mother's womb in the last 6 weeks. And if the mothers have so much stress because they have debts they have to deal with, they have bad food, they sometimes have um, um, domestic violence, they sometimes they have a bad house because they're cold and they cannot warm their house because they don't have money for warmth and comfort and things like that. So then they made a program for mothers that really, because that's what we should invest in. It's not
Yes.
about being these children born and then saying, okay, we should fix them. It's not about fixing a fault.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
about doing what's really important, which is giving mothers at that moment in their pregnancy and in their first, they sometimes say it's the first 1,000 days really defining their future. Well, maybe we should have the 4 years to support this mother, and then make sure she has a good pregnancy and she has some comfort and not all this stress and this worry,
Yes.
and then also have good food and things like that, and then also support this child. So it gave a completely different way of thinking also with the municipality, where they said we should not fix schools to say, oh, these are bad children, they are not intelligent. Well,
Yes.
it's not about being not intelligent.
Intelligent. Yes.
It's
Yes.
about your brain being developed at a
Yes.
certain stage in a pregnancy. Come on.
Yes.
So that's a completely different way of looking at life and
Yes.
supporting life with technology,
With technology.
to
Yes.
say, what is it that we should be doing? And our money should be going, because if we want an intelligent society with people who are combining their heads with their hearts and it's not about um, just saying the privileged ones can pay for it. So that's, well, bad luck. No,
Yes.
it's about including and really making this an important priority. And that's what Ari does. It's really, this is just one example. He has a lot more examples, but technology can really make a change here.
Yes.
He
Yes.
works a lot with students, so I'm sure he wants to he might be able, I don't know if he would have the time, you would have to ask him yourself, but he loves working with students, and he, just like I, thinks that the young people we should invest in, because they will make the future, co-create the future
Yes.
together. So yeah, and other technologies, of course, there's lots of other examples, also very hardcore technologies, like at this moment that are made with local, abundantly available materials, or out of rest streams, waste streams of materials. Those are the batteries that will really store our energy without needing the mining of lithium in South America, because that's destroying your environment.
Environment, yes.
And if you don't need, yes, if you don't need these lithium mines and this lithium mining, then you can have a completely different way of going for clean energy. So those are the technologies I'm talking about, sometimes really hardcore. And what I think in technology, one thing I already mentioned, it should support life. And the other thing is maybe more about business models than the technology as such. We should be prepared, and it might be a very hard thing to get across, but we should be prepared in our business models to make a technology die.
Yes.
Because sometimes we will have better ones.
Yes.
And at this moment, we are the vested interests we're now so hard trying to protect, like mining, like,
Yes.
I don't know, things with lithium, or we need to buy a mobile phone every few years because the battery doesn't work anymore, or we have that should not be the case. It should be so we should build that the business will stay alive when we also invent new technologies. So that
Yeah.
means multiple income stream in our business. So our business will not die if some technology just gets maybe not needed anymore, because
Yes.
now we are in technological lock-ins. We still build like coal coal fuel power things, because it is just something that we invested in for, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 years, and that's vested interest. Well, we should be prepared to change it when we have new insight. Our academic community will have a big role in that. And there also I see a lot of cooperation between science and business, deep, deep knowledge by people who are specialists in a field, and generic knowledge of the people who see the connections between it all.
Yes.
So those are the generalists. And I think they're all needed.
Yes. Yes.
They're all needed.
I completely agree with you.
And I think that's also the good news, because for one student, it means they might have a calling, one thing that they're very good at, and they can have a role into this new economy, because
Yes.
everyone has a role.
Yes.
Everyone is a consumer, and they can spend their money where their heart is. Everyone can be a co-creator, and everyone can, I don't know, if you want to be a lawyer, you need to find the laws that work for this new economy. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you can really be an entrepreneur with regenerative business models. If you are really a techie and you really are into technology, you can go for depth and really invent these batteries that will
Yes.
change our world, or all these other products that will change our world, all these methods. And if you're a storyteller like me, or an educator like you, or the people who just do all these things, it's a role for everybody.
Yes. Work with hands, for instance. Yes.
Yes,
Yes. 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 We
it's a
don't need.
combination.
Yes.
One of my friend always told it, and he said, if your head starts to feel and your heart starts to think, your hands will automatically do the right thing. And
Yes.
that's
Perfect.
really great. I love it.
Perfect. Yes. Desiree, I think that unfortunately, pity, we have a problem here. We had some problems here. Connection problems, maybe. Hi, Desiree. Have you come back? Connection problems?
Here we are again.
Yes.
Yes.
Desiree, unfortunately, we have to finish now.
I'm a bit in the middle of nowhere, so sometimes it can happen.
So, Desiree,
to go deeper into some subject, I will be available.
Yes, me too. We have to commit with each other to visit. I have to visit you and you have to visit me when the COVID is over. And hope it happens
Would be
soon.
great.
Okay.
Yes.
So you come here
would be great.
to eat our white rice with beans.
Yes. Well, thank you so much.
It was great to be with you, Desiree. It was very great. Thank you a lot.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Renata. I really will be following the progress of your students, because I really think that a lot of people will make big changes, and I'll just connect them all to each other and see that that all the great things that are happening in the world on these different places. So that's really good. Thank you so much.
I will share our recording with you, and hope that you like it too, and that you can share with other people.
Thank you.
In Netherlands and all over the world.
Yes.
Bye, my dear. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.